Welcome back to Business Week here on Arise News. I'm joined now by Zeal, Akaraiwe, CEO Graham Black, to review some of our top stories in more detail. And Zeal, you'd have seen that I got my tongue in a twist over trying to give our viewers what diesel prices were, because even me myself, like, really? 1,700?
Shocking.
NBS says diesel is around 1.7. Mm-hmm. But you buy diesel.
Almost every month.
Okay,
yes.
so what price are you buying diesel at?
This month, so when I saw that headline, I actually went to check. And I said, okay, guys, if I bought diesel today, how much is it? And it was 1,050, 1050.
1,000, 1050?
Yes, 1050.
1050.
You know, I said, okay, for this year, has diesel price been as high as 1,200 at any point in time this year? And this is one of the major diesel suppliers in the country, and they said no.
Okay.
Now, I do understand this is Lagos, maybe we're in a bubble, and I understand that places like Benue, Taraba, Adamawa, because of all the issues, diesel prices, they are higher. But at the same time, we also know that Lagos, Oyo, and Ogun State consume roughly 55 to 60% of the diesel in the country.
Yeah.
So if you did a weighted average, I can't see how 1,100 here can translate to 1,700
even if
nationwide.
it's like you said, if it's an average, then if we land at 1.7 as an average, that means some people that bought at almost 2,000, right?
It means that most people, if the largest consumers are at 1.1,
means most people bought above. So where does the discrepancy lie between what NBS is reporting and what people are saying, the traders?
I think the discrepancy lies in the description. The 1.7 is what? I don't know if the 1.7 is an average, or is it the highest point being sold in the country?
Sure.
So, mathematics, is it the mean, is it the median, is it the mode? I don't know what it is. But in terms of what I consume in Lagos, or what's the the bulk of diesel is consumed in Lagos, Oyo, and Ogun State.
And sometimes with oil and gas trading lingo, we have to be sure that it's actually diesel they're referring to, and not some other. No, but it's true, and not some other specific type of product, refined product. Because bulky, NBS says automotive gas oil in bracket diesel, so we know it's diesel they're referring to. The same diesel that diesel generators use and some heavy goods vehicles.
So, yes.
Right. Okay, so this is interesting because I think this would also be good feedback for the NBS, because I guess with data collection, you're doing some theoretical analysis, but you're probably also including some street economics into your analysis. So perhaps this is something that we need to look at. But it then brings us back to the issue of prices. Right, consumer prices, prices of energy prices. What does this tell us about prices in any case, both from your reading and what NBS is saying?
Well, so I buy diesel, like I said, at least 8-9 months in the year I'm buying diesel. Yeah. So I have a good, and I've bought from the same suppliers for the past 14 years.
Right.
So I have a good trend. What we do is we send an email, they send me the price, I send them money, they send me diesel.
Okay.
So I actually have emails showing the prices over a long period of time. And I would say for the past year or so, prices have been either stable or trending downwards.
Okay.
For diesel.
Okay.
Right? And which I think is, it's still more expensive than I would like it, but we can point to some stability or improvement.
Right.
Not where we should be, but the direction is good.
And of course, we know with any type of fuel that goes into transportation, it has a spillover effect into agri-products. Yes. And one of the stories you wanted to discuss was the prices of cowpeas and beans in Nigeria, which have dropped, with a 100 kg bag now selling for 80,000 to 120 instead of 240,000. Is this a sign of things to come?
I hope so.
Okay, so tell me what's going on here.
So in that story, I noticed that the first headline I came across was maybe in December or January, that beans prices had been coming down. And it was attributed to much improved harvest conditions. And I think we lost a lot of produce last year because of floods. There was a bad flooding incident. And so I think this year, because no floods, thank God, the harvest has been significantly more buoyant than last year. So there's a good amount of beans in the market. Prices are down significantly, which I'm happy, because consumer prices really need to come down from where there is. One thing to have stability, but we've attained a reasonable amount of stability. But at the same time, it's not as beneficial to be stable at a price points higher than the existence level of the average person.
Nigerian.
So we still, the stability is great for the macroeconomic environment, but at the same time, we still need prices to trend downwards a bit. So this beans news was very good, unfortunately. I just hope, because beans is highly seasonal, I hope we have the storage capacity to keep the excess so that we don't have volatility in prices as the year ends.
Absolutely. And this is always music to my ears because food price inflation has been such a sticky issue for Nigerians. But let's move on to another issue. Moody's. First it was Fitch. I reported on this about 2 weeks ago. Has downgraded Afreximbank. Tell us what is going on here. Is there a problem with the bank or is it a problem of the ratings? No, and you laugh, but we've been having this debate about ratings agencies for years, and somebody will see and say there's an onslaught against African multilateral financial institutions, but at the same time, these ratings reviews process are meant to be quite thorough, the research process.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have the details of the ratings review process for Afrexim, so I'll just put that aside.
Okay.
But I do know that the issues around the restructure of the sovereign debt of Ghana and the default of Zambia were major focal points. And I know there was this huge debate between Afrexim and the rating agencies around the fact that Afrexim is excluded from the default situation because of the type of
preferred creditor status
and all that. So I think what's in debate is that preferred creditor status, right? Because if that is questioned or impugned, then they will be downgraded.
But
course. If not, then I don't see why they're being downgraded. But
the Moody's also cites a narrowing range of funding sources, and I thought that was interesting. Apart from the capital exposure to the distressed sovereigns, Ghana has done quite well to restructure, so I don't know if we can put it in that category. But the funding sources for these banks, what are the typical funding sources?
It's shareholders.
Shareholders, right?
Shareholders.
Right.
Mostly, and then of course they have access to other multilaterals.
And so the idea is that there's been a pullback in these funding sources, so it's more expensive capital they're bringing on board?
I don't know if that's what Moody's is talking about, or if it's the fact that because of the change in the global economic circle, that if that's going to affect them. Also, I did notice that they said something about the concentration risk. I think more than half of Afrexim's risk assets are in two countries, Nigeria and Egypt. Yes, which I would say with 52 countries in Africa, I think that is, but Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa.
So geographic concentration risk, I thought you were even going to talk about portfolio from a sector perspective, but maybe we don't want to get too technical. But this is an interesting watch. I'm very sort of invested in this because I've been tracking African multilateral financial institutions for years. So I will be following the story to see whether we're able to redress this issue. But I want our last story, this Nigerian Medical Association that has criticized the government for, I think, the deal to send Nigerian doctors to St. Lucia.
I saw that, and a lot of things played in my mind all at the same time once I heard that. The first thing was very comical when, I can't remember I can't remember if it was a previous or a grand previous Minister of Health that said that, well, we don't have a doctor crisis, and if you can't go to the farms or something. I don't remember that headline. It was the Minister of Health that said something along those lines about doctors. And then shortly after that, we started saying, look, we don't have the doctor per capita number in the country is really, really low and cannot work. And we've lost a lot of medical, not just doctors, medical staff we've exported them, right? So we know we don't have enough, no matter what. I've seen some numbers on the number of doctors per citizen or the number of psychologists per citizen and all that. It's not what it should be. So I was very surprised that we that are having a near crisis regarding the number of doctors we have were offering to send out some more. I found the principle a bit odd.
Well, odd, but also Africa as a whole has been trying to build links with the Caribbean countries in terms of trade, exchange of human capital. So this is also part of foreign policy and global trade and economic relations to reach out to our brothers across the Atlantic, surely. So should we temper that a bit with saying that somehow he's exiting Nigerian doctors? Because this is not like he's sending millions or thousands of doctors. This is just a gesture defined around the specific type of foreign relations engagement.
I understand it's a gesture, but you see, as, how do they say that thing? There's this very common adage that charity begins at home. Whilst I have no issues at all extending out a hand to help other people, I have no issues with that. But I don't think I would be a responsible father to offer to donate to your children's school fees when I haven't paid mine.
Sure.
It's not responsible to do that. I think with the situation we have, are there other ways where we have a surplus of something? And say, from this surplus, I'm happy to extend help to you. But I don't see how we are extending help from a sector that's hugely deficit. Hugely deficit. We have the highest malaria deaths. We have infant mortality through the roof. I know personally, on a first-hand basis, I know the state of our medical ecosystem. I'm not sure that is the area we should be extending help from. That's the point.
The point is taken, and when you use that example of a father, I mean, that hits him really closely. But the NMA, the Nigerian Medical Association, has actually given the government a 21-day deadline to address long-standing issues related to doctors' welfare. So the timing of it was also really kind of very poignant.
Do you remember how many strikes, doctors on strike, nurses on strike?
Of course.
There's an issue there. We've not resolved our issue, and we think, oh, they have a problem, let's solve theirs.
Yeah, indeed. We have time for one more question. Saudi Arabia, and I'm trying to understand this, they're seeing fresh debt trading activity after launching an over-the-counter settlement for Saudi Real bonds. So tell us what all this means for the country.
Now, Saudi raised sovereign bonds, Euro bonds a few years ago, and everybody was wondering, it wasn't a lot of money. Everyone wondered why they have more money than, they shouldn't be borrowing. But you see, they've understood something about getting foreign investors comfortable with you. Foreign investors coming in help you understand the state of your local regulatory environment, your local legislative environment, and everything around that. So if they come in and there's an issue, you're going to notice there's a problem with tax, there's a problem with legislation, there's the ease of doing business is tough. So that's why they've done that. And they're trying to demonstrate to the whole world that their economy is evolving and opening up. Yes. And the best way to do it is to let outsiders come in and test the systems. That's what they're celebrating, because those volumes are not huge volumes. In Nigeria, we do more volumes than that. We don't celebrate it. But the issue is they are using this as a gauge, a thermometer, to say what is the state of our local ease of doing business. They come in, if there's an issue, you go to the courts. How long does it take the courts to resolve this? Can we resolve it in a week, or does it take 7 years?
Absolutely.
And then if you can't resolve it quickly, then they improve. So they are using this as a gauge to know what areas of their local economy they need to spend on to improve. And it's a small price to pay.
Indeed. And of course, they've been talking about diversifying away from oil and opening other sectors. So I guess this is part of that strategy. Yeah, great stuff. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Rola.
Great to see you.
You too.
Thank you.